Good afternoon. This is Commissioner Gray. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm here. How are
Thank
you?
you. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Public Service Commission meeting of April 22nd, 2026 come to order. We have two commissioners. We have one commissioner on the phone and two here in person, so we're okay. Reading of the minutes, are there any questions or concerns on the minutes as presented?
Madam Acting Chair, I move that we adopt the approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting as presented.
And I'll second.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Are there any members of the public out there who would like to make a short comment?
I'd just like to say the public advocate is at Legislative Hall right now, and he wants to make some comments later on. So I'd just like to reserve time whenever he comes or at the end for his comments.
And you have one public person on the phone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm obviously a Delmarva customer.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
And
This is Kate Workman. I'm counsel for the Public Service Commission. Can you please tell us your name?
sure, it's Joan Clee.
Thank you so much.
That's fine. I just want to say I have besides outrageous bills, solar panels, and I'm looking into trying to put a wind turbine on my property. But I find that even though the co-op has rebates, Delmarva Power basically does not. They go through DENREC, and DENREC has no approved contractors for residential wind turbines. And I have been unable to find anybody in the whole Delmarva Peninsula. So even though they've got high rates and they've got certain amount of green energy, it's very frustrating to be able to decrease my Delmarva bill and have no recourse other than the, my next door neighbor who has the co-op. I'm next door, I'm on Delmarva Power, and their bills are half of what mine are. So I'm very discouraged about how trying to use renewable and green energy and not being able to, just finding brick walls everywhere I go. That's it.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks, honey.
Input. Are there any other members of the public who would like to comment?
Madam,
Commissioner Conaway,
Yes, you're here.
I am here, yes. I would like to make public comment.
Are you going to take over the
Is
meeting
it-
also?
No. I'm in the middle of a physical therapy, in-home physical therapy session, so I just wanted to make sure I was here for the public comment. Is Jameson Tweedy here?
Yes, I'm here.
I would like to extend my appreciation to you and to the other individuals working on the committee to make recommendations to the governor with respect to new commissioners. Your efforts are much appreciated. And secondly, I understand, I just learned that this morning, that you all have come out with a substantial energy report, which I'm sure also will be appreciated by all the people who eventually read it. And I was wondering if maybe you would want some public comment time to update us on the workings of the committee that you're working on for the governor, and or also the energy report that you guys are going to submit.
I'd be happy to offer public comment, and but I don't want to interrupt any other members of the public who were in the queue. And apologies for walking in late. I was testifying before the Senate committee and came over as quickly as I could.
Well, I think you're next in queue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to be helping the governor's office with their efforts to try and find new and qualified and excellent commissioner candidates to replace retiring commissioners, and appreciate all of your efforts on that. All of your efforts over the years for this commission. I don't know that I have a lot more to say on that. On the report, yes, our office has just finished and released a report that looks back on 20 years of Delmarva's electric rate history, trying to understand how did we get to this point where rates are so unaffordable. It looks back at the costs that ratepayers are paying for transmission, distribution, and supply. And it's a detailed report and would welcome everyone to take a look at it and understand sort of how it is that we got here. The quick version, as quick a version as I can make it to explain the trajectories that we've had are over that 20-year history, transmission rates have steadily increased from a very small, relatively very small amount up to a more significant amount now. That increase has been more marked in the last 5 years. Over that 20-year history, distribution rates have ticked consistently up over time, and represent a very significant part of the bill. And those two trends, those two upward trends over 20 years, were largely masked by the fact that supply
decreased for much of those 20 years. And so from about 2010 to 2020, the cost for electricity supply paid in standard offer service rates had actually decreased and decreased quite significantly. But what is happening over the last 5 years is that suddenly the cost of supply is going up dramatically, and that is now compounding on the two other upward trends. So all three are increasing at the same time, creating this dramatic effect over the last just couple of years, where all three parts have increased, and now the total of those rates are unsustainable. And those are obviously, going hand in hand with regional pressures and broader energy market pressures that look likely to push rates up higher unless we come up with good policy solutions to address it. I did want to just also sort of extend out from that analysis, and thank you for the invitation to highlight it. We actually just made that public on our website last night, so I appreciate how quickly it caught your attention. I did just want to make some broader comments as well, and thank you for the chance to provide these. So this winter was absolutely brutal for utility customers. And those are customers who are already under significant financial strain, dealing not only with utility costs, but other costs. Inflation, the broader economic state of our country. And we had many customers this winter who came to us with utility costs that were higher than their mortgage or their rent. And that is absolutely unsustainable. And we know that the standard offer service rate is going to increase by another 18 to 20% this summer. And that's at roughly the same time that interim rates will go into effect on Delmarva's new rate case. And so interim rates on that $67 million rate case, which for people who don't understand what rate case parlance means, which is almost all of us, $67 million rate case means $67 million more dollars coming from ratepayers to Delmarva each year in annual revenue. I wanted to remind the commission, and I'm sure you all remember, that it was only back in November where Delmarva's leadership, Tyler Anthony, Jacqueline Cantler, and Marcus Beal, all came before the commission and presented their state of the company. And that state of the company report emphasized affordability for their customers repeatedly. It indicated that customer value and affordability was one of the components of their North Stars to deliver affordable solutions. They presented a customer affordability strategy, the purpose of which was to alleviate customers' energy costs. And all of this, I was reminded of all of this with the news in the last week that PECO, Pennsylvania's one of their largest utilities, announced that it will withdraw its latest rate case, which sought a $429 million increase for electric service and another $81 million increase for natural gas. This move is an incredible blessing for ratepayers in Pennsylvania, who will now be avoiding that $500 million in additional costs each year. And as we all know, Delmarva filed for a $67 million rate increase in December, just a month after they came and presented their state of the company and emphasized affordability. And in that rate case, they seek a 10.5% return on their equity, which I find utterly staggering in this moment of energy cost affordability crises. Delmarva customers should not bear the burden of these repeated cost increases, which are piled on top of prior rate increases. This is the third in just 5 years. And if granted, this would squeeze customers at the same time they're already being squeezed by natural gas rates increasing, capacity costs increasing, and other costs that can't be controlled in these same ways. Delawareans should not have to choose between paying for food or rent or other necessities. And so if Delmarva wanted to make good on its promise of customer affordability as their North Star, The solution seems pretty simple. It could withdraw its rate case increase request. This is what PECO has done, evidently recognizing that this is not a moment where customers should bear these increasing costs. And Delaware families are facing just the same challenges that those customers in Pennsylvania are. We are in 100% agreement with Delmarva that now is the time to focus on affordability, to recognize the concerns that people are facing, and to try to fix what we can. And so I would urge Delmarva to take a look at what has happened in Pennsylvania and consider what they do with their rate case request. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tweedy. Commissioner Conaway, has Delmarva Power and Light had the opportunity to speak during public comment to make their introduction yet?
No, they have not.
Okay, perhaps it would be a good time now, and I'll fade out. Thank you, Commissioner Conaway.
Marva?
Thank you, Acting Chair Conaway, and thank you, Commissioners, and thank you to Mr. Tweedy for his comments. Delmarva Power always appreciates the perspective of the public advocate, and we do look forward to working together collaboratively with public advocate, with staff, and our partners across the state to figure out solutions for our customers. And on a more personal note for Delmarva Power, we'd like to welcome the newest member of our legal team, Summer Pope, who's probably a familiar face to you all. Ms. Pope was most recently regional counsel with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. But maybe more importantly, prior to that, she was the counsel for this commission and staff. And I'm personally very happy to have her join our team and welcome her to the hot seat here. And I think she might have some remarks.
Thank you for that warm introduction, and good afternoon, Madam Acting Chair and Commissioners. It's great to see you all again. I look around the room today and I see a lot of familiar faces, and it feels great to be back. I want to extend my gratitude to Delmarva, but also to DPA, DENREC, staff, and this commission. I have the utmost respect for everybody involved and all the matters that we litigate and deal with on a regular basis, and I look forward to continuing to have a collaborative approach in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Mr. Hardigan, would you like to introduce our?
I was going to save that for director's comments,
Okay.
but no, thank you, Madam Acting Chair. I'll do that. In the theme of welcoming back former employees, we're joined today by Heidi Wagner, who's a new yet old Public Service Commission analyst. Heidi was with the commission several years ago, left to work with a few different utilities over the intervening years, and we're thrilled to have her back.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Heidi. Welcome. All right, now we're on the consent agenda.
Madam Acting Chair, this is Commissioner Gray. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I would just like to make a comment before we leave the public comment session. I know that we had one commenter, I believe Mrs. Clay, who made a public comment regarding wind turbine and rebates. And I don't know how to position this, but is it reasonable to ask that either the public advocate or staff evaluate what the co-op is doing? It could be yet another angle for ratepayers to lower the burden of their energy costs. And I didn't want to make this comment before Delmarva came forward because I don't want to put them on the spot immediately today, but I do believe that there should be some consideration given the interest from the public on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more member.
If I could just follow up with Commissioner Gray. Yes, we have Ms. Clee's contact information, Commissioner. This is Matt. So we will follow up with her and find out what programs may be available for wind power.
Thank you, Matt.
We have one more member of the public who would like to comment. Please, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Phillips. I live in Hockessin. I'm the owner of Scott Knows Solar, and a candidate for the next, currently a candidate for the PSC board. Okay. I was on a PJM webinar in the last week and a half where they said that their primary reason for rate increases was that over the last 10 years, they have allowed demand to quadruple and supply to go up by 5%. Google has developed an AI thing that is intended to help like the PJM equivalents across the country get more supply online as fast as possible. They chose PJM to start with first because that's a known issue that PJM does not allow more supply on the grid. The impact of this is things like what I see every day as a solar company. We do a lot of community solar, which I'm sure you guys have talked about. These are the people who are renters or homeowners or things like that, and they're just looking for a way to lower their bill without having to put panels on the roof. The one that I really remember was 4 weeks ago now. He was a 75-year-old guy in Hockessin. The lights are off when I'm in his house. He used 300 kilowatts for the month. Delmarva had applied a 3 kilowatt demand charge on his bill. Demand is the most intense 15 minutes of the month. They charge you $5 or $6 a kilowatt. This man had like I said, 300 kilowatts for the month, 3 of them where he was paying $5 a kilowatt. This cannot be allowed to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shen?
Apologies to take up more time of public comment, but my colleague Jacob Sneeden did wish to make some remarks. That's all right.
Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Jake Sneed, I'm the Director of Regulatory Initiatives for Delmarva Power. And just wanted to, follow on my colleagues' comments in 2 regards. One, I think, the report that DPA put out last night was very thorough. I was able to read it this morning, and, it did provide, I think, a good picture of what is happening. We've had, a company that's investing in the system. And slowly rates have been increasing on our side in the distribution system. And recently supply rates have, really been skyrocketing, and customers are feeling the impact of that. And I think that's a story that we have been telling, and really believe that together we should be working on solutions to address those challenges. I think there was, it was very data focused. But I think it also missed some context that, I think could be added to help, support that story. We've seen, inflation be a significant challenge across the country, and our rate making is backward looking. So we are recovering for inflation from years ago, in our most recent cases. So I think that was out of context. I think also, what have customers in Delaware gotten from those investments? They've gotten very strong reliability. Outages are down more than 50% over 10 years. We're looking at significant improvements for our customers. And, so these investments are important. They're the backbone of businesses in this state. And so I think, we scrutinize our investments. We make them prudently. We make them cost effectively and efficiently. And, I want to make sure that, that value is also part of that story. But they are investments in the system, and they do, they do cost money, and we recognize that, and that's why we take them so seriously. I think to the second point that Mr. Tweedy made, our rate case, like I mentioned, is backward looking. It's to recover investments that have already been made in the system over the last few years to improve that reliability for customers, to be that backbone for businesses in the state. And we want to make sure that we are delivering on our customers' expectations for strong reliability, for storm responses when the power goes out and you need us to be there. That's what those investments are for. And so we recognize that there is an affordability challenge. We are working hard trying to bring forward solutions to address those supply increases. And I just, we will continue to work with everyone in the state to make sure that we are bringing forward affordability solutions. And thank you for the opportunity to just respond.
All right, and now we are at the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be removed or explained? Any questions?
Madam Acting Chair, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as submitted.
I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. And now we're on to the regular agenda. In the matter of the application of Delmarva Power and Light Company for approval of modifications to its gas cost rates. I believe Ms. Shen is first on that.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair Conaway and Commissioners. Again, this is Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. This item pertains to interim pass-through gas cost rates for the remainder of the current GCR year, which goes through October 31st, 2026. By way of brief background, as the Commission may recall, Delmarva Power filed its annual GCR application on August 28th, 2025. The Commission then issued order number 10850, which approved rates to become effective for natural gas usage on November 1st, 2025, and those rates are subject to review and refund. Earlier this year, on February 27th, the company filed a request to waive Leaf number 35, Section 20D in its tariff, which requires us to apply for an interim rate increase if during the GCR period, the projected under collection of the gas costs will exceed 6%. As explained in our filing, the company projected an under recovery of 27.5% as of January 2026, driven primarily by higher gas commodity prices in January, as well as prolonged low winter temperatures. Following Delmarva Power's waiver request filing, staff engaged in discussions with the company and the public advocate to examine ways to mitigate the bill impact of the under collection. Ultimately, the parties agreed on a proposal to implement an interim GCR rate of 80.64 cents per CCF. So this translates into an estimated 5% increase for an average residential gas space heating customer. And so this interim rate would go into effect May 1st. And this would only be in place through the end of the GCR period, which again goes through the end of October. This proposal came out of multiple collaborative discussions between the parties, and Delmarva Power staff and the DPA agree that this option would help mitigate the bill impact by targeting the increase outside of the heating season, while also reducing the under collection balance and reduce interest expense. As a result, Delmarva Power respectfully requests the Commission enter proposed order number 11003 that's before the Commission. And Delmarva Power greatly appreciates the work with staff and the public advocate and thanks the parties for their efforts on this matter.
Thank you very much. Ms. Workman?
Kate Workman on behalf of staff. Staff, like Ms. Shen said, staff, DPA, and DPL all work together to come up with a solution. When this under recovery happens, the company is entitled to recover that. And this is just the best way that the parties could agree on to mitigate that cost for customers. So this is going to result in a small increase, but it's going to help offset a much larger increase in the next GCR case. And it's, like Ms. Shen said, focused on the non-heating months where hopefully consumers will consume less gas, so their bills will be cheaper. So focusing the raise right now is what we all think is in the best interest of the consumer. So yes, it is an increase. However, this is the best option that we have at this time to kind of combat the under recovery that happened. So staff supports this and requests that the commission enter order number 11003. Thank you.
Nothing further to add from the DPA unless.
Are there any questions?
Yes, Madam Acting Chair, I have a question, and that is that, Ms. Shen, you mentioned a 5% increase. So I went back to my own bill and had this proposed GCR increase amount of 0.80647 been in effect during the last billing period, my GCR costs would have increased 20%. And in fact, I think the overall increase is 20%. Mine would have increased by 23%. I ran the numbers. So I'm not sure where the 5% is coming from. And to say it's a nominal increase or a small increase is significant based on, how much gas you use. But, for some people, even a 5% increase is tipping that cup over. So I feel like this is significant. Evidently, this is the easiest way to accommodate the overage, but I think calling it not significant is maybe a misnomer. I think it's significant, and if it continues into November and December, people will experience a significant increase in their bills. So. It was a very cold winter. We understand it is an increase, but again, it's an increase. So I don't want to minimize the impact that this may have. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Mr. Ray, do you have any comments?
Yes, Madam Acting Chair, may I?
Yes.
My interpretation of the information provided showed a 20% increase in the GCR. But what's alarming to me is it seems only to reduce the under collection by about 10%. And so what that means is if you're collecting only $3 million against the 27, then you still have an under collection of 24 million. And if it takes a 20% increase to collect 10%, does that imply that we need another 180% increase going forward in order to come to zero and erase the under collection?
This is Yishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva. So the option that we're putting forward in the proposed order before the commission is not, you're correct, it's not the full under collection. And I would have to follow up on the specific numbers and calculations that Your Honor mentioned. We can certainly provide we can certainly take a look at the calculations, and I want to make sure that I'm addressing your question properly.
All right, that's a fair statement and response. When you look at this equation and the path forward, I'd also be interested to appreciate what does your new gas storage facility help you, Delmarva, to do in terms of managing the cost of the gas that you're providing? For example, are you pulling market rate gas in order to develop your under collection? Is there some ability to hedge against the market because you've invested in storage? These are questions that would be of great interest to me, especially confronting the fact that a 20% increase only pays off 10% of the under collection that is pending right now. Do you understand my concern and my interest?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Could I offer a comment on that? Commissioners, great comments and great questions. So I will fill in what I know to the extent it's helpful. So the gas cost rate is intended to be a pass-through cost. Delmarva should not recover a profit on the cost of natural gas. And they set that price in each year's gas cost rate, which includes a true up from the prior year if there was an over or under collection. And this year, with the incredibly cold and long duration cold we had in January and February, both Chesapeake and Delmarva ended up in a significant under recovery situation. And that was because the cost of natural gas spiked dramatically beyond where they had modeled that it would during that prolonged cold period in January and February. And so when Chesapeake and Delmarva each came to us trying to address this, as you probably recall, they initially filed a waiver request because they were so under recovered that the default action would have been to increase natural gas rates dramatically to try to even that out this gas cost rate year. And what in collaborative discussions between Delmarva and staff and DPA and separately Chesapeake and staff and DPA, the discussion was, how do we best mitigate this so that it doesn't all kick in next year? Because in the original waiver requests that Delmarva and Chesapeake had filed, it was a waiver of having to increase rates because they were in such an under recovery situation that the default would have been to trigger an immediate increase. And so the waiver would then put that off until next year. And as you likely recall, gas cost rates kick in November. And so if we had waited until next year, then these increases would have kicked in right at the beginning of the heating season when people are using a lot of natural gas and would have hit people even harder. And so what we worked with staff and the company to try to figure out is how do we mitigate that in some sense by recovering some of it during the off season where usage is not as high. And so the rate will go up and but it hopefully will not hit people's pocketbooks as badly because they're simply not using as much between now and next winter. And to use that to try to reduce what the impact would be next winter. Commissioner Gray, you had noted that that this only recovers about 10%, and apologies if I get any of your question wrong, and therefore, are we going to have a huge increase next fall to make good on the rest of it? And this Delmarva may be able to pull more precise data, but their initial estimates that they presented to us were hopefully not, because once you get into the next gas cost rate year, you're spreading it out over a lot more sales of natural gas than if you were to try and do it this year. And so recovering that 90% is easier over a full year than in this abbreviated what we have left of this year. So hopefully it is not that crazy increase that you're talking about. And Delmarva had a prior under recovery from the prior year that has now been essentially made good on. And so those two will somewhat offset each other. That is not to say that this isn't a serious concern. It absolutely is. And if we continue to get abnormal weather, prolonged cold winters, or if we see what is currently happening, that there is upward pressure in the natural gas market because of supply and demand across the region, that could be incredibly problematic. But in our negotiations with staff and the company, this felt like as good an option as we could achieve for ratepayers trying to balance the impact right now and the impact in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tweedy. That was very well articulated. I understand the strategy, and I, on behalf of ratepayers, appreciate the fact that you've reached a compromise that would not be an overburden in, a critical winter season. But I still am very interested to appreciate, if there's still 24 million under collection, what the next strategy might look like and the best ways in which also to manage it for the ratepayer. And just a final comment for Delmarva, to the extent that you can show the value of your investment in gas storage, because there was proposed that investment would bring some value to helping mitigate the burden of gas costs. I'd appreciate seeing some of that presented for the commission as well. Madam Acting Chair, I have no further comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shen?
Thank you, Acting Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Gray and Mr. Tweedy. Your comments are well taken, and I did want to add that I believe Commissioner Gray was referring to the LNG facility in Wilmington. I think our numbers estimate that it's about $4.7 million to $5 million in savings on gas costs have resulted from the investment in the LNG facility, and we are certainly happy to provide further information and continue those discussions with you all. Thank you.
Thank you again. Madam Acting Chair, I'm prepared to propose that the Commission adopt order number 11003 as submitted.
And I second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all very much. And now there's nothing under the hearing schedule, so we are on to administrative matters.
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. The only thing left to mention is that our next meeting is May 6th.
Madam Acting Chair?
Yes.
Yes, if you don't mind, you have a bullet point here for other comments. I do have two that I'd like to make. Actually, Ms. Shen and the Delmarva team there, I recall last year when we acknowledged the presentation of Delmarva's IRP, we asked the question whether they had considered the arrival of data centers, and the response, as I recall, was that an updated DPL IRP would be prepared this year. And so I'm mentioning that now. There may not be an answer, but in the next meeting or so, it would be helpful to appreciate when Delmarva might be in a position to do an updated IRP, if that's still the game plan. One other comment I'd like to make. Thanks, Mr. Tweedy, for mentioning the PECO Exelon withdrawal of their rate increase request in Pennsylvania. I don't know how many folks in the audience are old enough to have seen the movie When Harry Met Sally, but there's one scene in that movie with a woman in a restaurant who just in one of her script lines says, "I'll have what she's having." I won't go into the specifics of how that scene emerged, but would it be prudent to reconsider the potential to follow suit in Delaware? In other words, I'll have what Pennsylvania is having if it's possible. And so with that note, I have no further comments, and thank you very much, Madam Acting Chair.
Madam Acting Chair, if I could, Commissioner Gray, to your first comment, I believe you're referring to the ISR, the Infrastructure Safety and Reliability Plan, not the
Yes.
IRP.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so the company has filed this year's ISR in compliance with the regulation, and staff and DPA will review that and present an order to the commission in the future for you to acknowledge that.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. And just a clarification on my comment about having what Pennsylvania's having. I also further acknowledge that I will be responsible as a commissioner to take in all of the evidence and the necessary hearings in the rate case to make an informed decision. But if preferences were on the table, I think I've acknowledged my interest. Thank you.
Thank you. And best to you tomorrow. Anything else to come before this body? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.